Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we're going to talk about the law of assumption. And what is a law of assumption? How does it work? What are we actually doing when we look at the law of assumption? And let's get into it. Law of assumption, it's cosmic law. Whatever we assume happens. That is kind of the basis of it. So you see a lot of videos on the law of assumption now. To me, it's kind of the latest thing, to kind of piggyback on the law of attraction. And I've seen a lot of videos that have come across my my YouTube stuff lately about the law of assumption. So it's like, I guess I knew what that was, but it never really grabbed me the way it has grabbed me lately. So one thing to remember with the law of assumption is you're always trying to break down human programming when you're doing this stuff. You understand how the universe works when you're in your higher aspects, when you're in that connected place. You don't need to do the law of assumption. Okay? So, and what you're trying to bring in is going to match the frequency you're giving off. So even if you're trying to assume a certain person is in your life, right? And you're trying to work that's the angle you're trying to work. It's still a very distorted timeline because if the person's not here, it's not aligned for them to be here. So even if they come back, that doesn't mean you now are going to live this amazing life with this person. There's still a distortion in that. So I'll always preference a law of assumption with if it's not here, it's not aligned. Now, why is it not aligned? That's kind of what I use these exercises for. It was more for me to look at what my human was doing and how certain things I have seen in my dream state, certain things I knew were going to happen at some point, they were not unraveling the way I wanted them to, in a sense. And that's my human talking. It wasn't happening fast enough. This is what's taking so long. What is in the way? Knowing that the answer to that, which is I'm in the way, to some level I'm in the way. How am I in the way? So especially when things start popping in, like your YouTube or your Instagram or wherever you're getting a lot of different random things, and you start to notice certain things. And this was something that kept popping for me. So I'm like, okay, let me look at this. A lot of them promise, they do the human promise of you can get this in 60 minutes. You can get this in 3 days. It doesn't matter what it is. Which I will say, when you're in your higher aspects and when you've embodied in those higher aspects, things can come in absolutely within seconds. There's the only lapse between space and time is our human consciousness. That's what makes things take longer. So a lot of these people are putting just random time frames on the videos. It doesn't really matter, the time frame. To me, the time frame was more of a way to get you to either not think about it because you had 3 days for it to come in, or to obsessively think about it because you thought it was going to be here in 60 minutes. But you could see the longer the time frame dragged out when you started to doubt whatever it is you were trying to bring in. And that to me was what it was showing my human. I was starting to see how I didn't believe that was possible. Because if it didn't come in within the 3 days or within whatever the time frame was, then in that time I kept thinking, well, this is ridiculous. This can't happen. This is ridiculous. This is not even gonna be able to occur because it's too crazy or whatever. So start to listen to your feedback in it. Start to listen to what your human is saying, because that's also something we are projecting out, that this isn't possible. Oh, this can't happen. And to me, that's more of what the law of assumption was showing me, that I did have places where I didn't believe that was possible. And then I'm trying to break down that programming where I thought, oh, that can't happen. Oh, that's not possible. I can't believe I was even doing this exercise. This is stupid. This is not going to happen. Now, and don't get too bogged down the time frame. That's all the human tilt to all this stuff. It is cosmic law that what you assume will happen. There's also a frequency issue and what we're attracting in. And I think I already said this, but just because you attract it in doesn't mean it's highest aligned to the highest of the highest. It's just some frequency you're giving off to bring it in. It doesn't mean it's going to end the way you want it to. We'll always say that about timeline. The same thing when you do, if you read the book The Secret. Just because your human wants something, there's already a distortion around that. And the timeline's probably not going to end how you want it to end. because of how you're starting it. It's always the energy and the energetics of how you start the timeline is how the timeline is going to end. That's why you take great care when you expand your consciousness and embody in those higher levels of consciousness to really look at, what am I trying to bring in? Why do I want that? And to me, the law of assumption was more of those exercises for me. Why do I want that? Why do I want that person, if it was a person, or why do I want that thing? What's going on with me? What is, because when you get to certain levels of consciousness, you can call yourself out on that shit. You don't have to be ashamed for saying, oh, I'm going to do this exercise and put this person's name down and see if it works. That's okay. You can play in the human a little bit. I'm gonna appease my human and let's play this game, because it is a game. And if you start looking at a lot of this stuff as a game, even though they can be very serious games, you also can see the power of what you can do. But look at what you're trying to bring in, and look at the energy around why you want it there. And you might find, once you break down the program of why you want that there, why you want that person there, why you want that job, why you want that friendship, why you want that $1 million, whatever it is, you're going to start to see why it's not aligned, and what might be why it's not here. Why you don't believe that's possible. Well, you don't believe you're good enough. There's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So just look at what the feedback is. Your internal feedback is the lesson here, in a sense. It's not the thing. The thing really doesn't fucking matter. I'll always say that. The thing never fucking matters. It's always how we feel about the thing. It's our story we have around the thing. And I saw the law of assumption done a couple different ways. I think one person just talked about just saying it. And I can't remember who even discovered the law of assumption, or discovered it, but brought it into writing, brought it into the human consciousness. I can't think of his name. I think his first name was Neville. I can't really remember it right now. But it is based on some old teachings. And it is a cosmic law. You can't get around that it's a cosmic law. It's just, when you're human, you're also transmitting a lot of stuff that you don't realize you're transmitting. But the more conscious you become, you can go back and use some of these exercises and still see with what you might be transmitting out. Don't look too much at having the thing come in. Look at where you don't believe it's possible for that thing to come in. Where you don't believe, you're good enough for that thing to come in. Or what's the breaking point of when you start to doubt that thing? There's also going to be a reason it doesn't come in. One, it's not aligned in that moment, and something's in the way. It might never be aligned to your highest timeline. So you can have fun with this, but you have to be honest with yourself about what you're trying to do. I saw one person do it in a pyramid, which does kind of activate our Egyptian bloodlines and our Egyptian aspects, the Egyptian god aspects. It's kind of fun because the pyramid, which this person explained it, I think it brings opposites together or something to that extent, with the symbol of the pyramid. And it did remind me that I had a teacher years ago. I got on a retreat where he had built a bed, and it was a pyramid, and he would sleep in the pyramid because he felt like the vibration of the pyramid, because a lot of the sacred sites all around the world have the same vibration. When they would calibrate the vibration of all these sacred sites, a lot of the pyramids, different rooms, the pharaoh rooms, different places in the pyramid, they have the same, and different places all around the world, not just the pyramids. I can't remember the other ones. It might have been even Stonehenge. They all have the same vibration, which was kind of neat. So I actually bought a tuning fork with that vibration in it. So I will use that sometimes with that. If I work with people energetically, sometimes I'll use that, or I'll use it on myself. So it's just kind of a fun way to do it. And what the exercise was is they put the name at the top of the pyramid. If it was a person, which I do want to I did play with a person. I played with a couple people actually that I had seen that would be coming in over the next so many, whenever the frequency's here. So I was playing with that. And then you list, what you want, what they're going to want, but then the real reason why they're going to come in, or something to that extent. You can kind of play around with what feels right to you. And then in the middle of the pyramid, you just write, oh my God, it happened. Oh my God, I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. So it goes into assuming it's already there. Now, look at the distortions around what you want. Look at the energy you're giving off when you're trying to bring it in. look at where you think it's not possible. That to me was a bigger thing for me. And that's the reason, one of the reasons I wanted to go through some of those exercises, because I didn't realize I had resistance to certain things. And I realized that I did. And I also realized where I was holding on to certain things and maybe certain people, kind of wanting them to come back in, maybe wanting to play out an old timeline. And I was like, do I really want that? Is that the first name that popped in my head when I started doing these exercises? You know, is this really what I want in this whole thing? So it really did kind of get you to be true to yourself. And because all those things do block our higher timelines. If we assume something can't happen, we're delaying it happening. If we assume we want this person, even though that person is not aligned to our highest timeline, bringing that person in just delays those timelines. And if you're in your human consciousness, which you're only going to do this if you're in your human consciousness to an extent, there is a pure form of this, but a lot of what I've seen is just people in their human consciousness doing it, because that's the part of me that it appealed to in that moment, until I did it, and then I could turn it and see it from a different perspective. But if you don't have the capability to see it from a different perspective yet, you're kind of just doing what you want. It's kind of like a child wanting a toy and trying to figure out a way to get it. And if I can't get it physically, then we're going to work with it energetically. Now, there's also a part of these videos that activate people energetically to realize that their thoughts do matter. Your beliefs do matter. And that's 100% correct. They do. That's the programming you're breaking down. But you're also breaking down the human programming that you need these things to begin with. And what you're going to get when you get them. And is that the highest timeline you're going to get. So play around with it if it feels aligned to do that. Look at what you don't believe is possible. Look at what you're trying to pull into your vibration now, which, like I said, if it's not in your vibration now, it is not aligned. Kind of have to deal with that. Now it might be aligned, not aligned, because we have programming to work through. And then it will, when it's aligned, it comes in effortlessly. And that's kind of what the law of assumption really is, in a sense. When it's aligned, it comes in. We don't have to do anything to get it there. We're doing all this stuff because it's not here yet and we want it here. So there's already a lack and a need there. But if you can recognize that and work on the programming even underneath that, you can use some of this stuff, even though it's a human consciousness wanting it, to break down that consciousness and really delve into what am I feeling about this? Why am I holding on to this? Why am I holding on to this person, holding on to this idea, when there might be something else I need to see? And look at what you realize once you start busting through some of that stuff. Because you're going to find that when you start busting through a lot of these programs, you'll be able to see more. That's why we see more. Things that we couldn't see before. And we understand more. Maybe understand, yeah, it's time to let that go. I thought I'd let that go, but apparently I hadn't let that go, and it's time to let that go. So just look at what you want to bring in. Look at how distorted it might be, and look at it without rose-colored glasses on, and really look at it and say, yeah, that shit's pretty distorted. What am I doing? Well, and if it feels highest aligned that this is something I really want to occur, then let's look at that. Where do I not believe it's possible? Play around with it and keep practicing the art of intuition.